And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows. And if you can, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Lakers Fast Break, Lakerholics.com, and our great friends at the Hoopheads Podcast Network at hoopheadspod.com. It is sincerely appreciated. Well, things were looking good for a little while there in Dallas on the second game of a back-to-back where the Lakers had actually just Ben McLemore shooting it all over the place. Great shots, just consistently, the way Laker Tom likes it. Shooting from the three-point area. He got hot. His streaky shooting was in favor today in front of it. I don't know, it must be the ABC games. He really likes the ABC games because that's when he seems to shoot well. But he was really doing well. The Lakers as a team were playing well, up by as much as 17 points in the first half. Things were looking good. And then the second half started, and it all went down in the toilet from there, only scoring 35 points in the second as a whole, and a disastrous fourth quarter where they just had a big-time collapse in the last 5 minutes, everybody looking at each other, not knowing what to do, confusion, the defense went awry, and most importantly, they just forgot how to play defense against the pick and roll because Dwight Powell, who is not a star player under any circumstances, seemingly went to town on the Lakers time and time again because of the pick and roll. And unfortunately, the Lakers' collapse led, like I said, from a 17-point lead to a 15-point loss. And again, this is a team that was tied halfway through the fourth quarter and looked like they were very much in the game and just simply got destroyed in the back half of the quarter by the pick and roll. But here today to talk about the game are two great guests indeed. First off, it is the man behind Lakerholics.com who it's going to be a very angry conversation next couple of days at Lakerholics.com. Jamie's shaking his head. But there is going to be a lot of angry conversations at Lakerholics.com. But it is led by the good man indeed. It is Laker Tom. And Laker Tom, you got to be really disappointed in the second half. You had AD for a good portion of it. AD still getting himself into shape. You had Ben McLemore, who, like I said before, is very streaky, and catch him on a good day. You've got to go ahead and pull it out. They had him on a good day, and unfortunately got destroyed in those last 5 minutes.
Well, I think what happened in this game is our rent-a-center situation just really got exposed because basically you had our centers, namely Gasol, and they decided not to play Harrell tonight, Gasol and Drummond, scoring 7 points, while the opposing center, who had a terrific game and showed you exactly how you do finish on plays around the rim, something that Drummond simply does not even grasp in the slightest. But Powell was terrific. You notice every time he was under control when he got those passes inside. And he executed the shots, and he scored 25 points. We got outscored by 18 points from the center position, and I didn't even count Willie Cauley-Stein. I don't even know he made a couple of baskets there. Willie also knows how to catch the ball and throw it down, something that's beyond Drummond, The simple fact that they sat Harrell will tell you exactly that the coaching staff sees the exact same situation. They went through this season reducing the amount of plays that Anthony Davis would play at center from 25% last season during the regular season to 7%. And then they go out and get Drummond, I guess with some sort of crazy idea that, hey, we can reduce this all down to 0 and let Anthony play the entire game at power forward. Well, kiss that goodbye, because the simple truth of it is center is the best position for Anthony Davis to play. And the Lakers are a better team every single minute that he plays. And they are not going to win a championship with Drummond, Gasol, or Harrell playing the 5.
Well, and they didn't even have Porzingis in the lineup. And that's, to me, was inexcusable that you don't have Porzingis in the lineup. And you don't have Porzingis in the lineup, and you don't have, basically a good portion of their offense is gone. You're basically relying on them running 60 to 70 pick and rolls a game, and they did just that. And the Lakers just seemed befuddled in the way they
Drummond doesn't know how to play the pick and roll. He finds himself in the middle in no man's land on every single pick and roll.
Exactly.
He's not close enough to contest the dunk, and he is not going to do anything on the perimeter. He's actually stationing himself, at the elbow almost on these drives and so forth. Lakers did a good job in the first half with the trapping. And I think Van Gundy's right. In the second half, we didn't trap as well. But also, Luka looked to get rid of the ball sooner, and they basically had strategized how to play that. And what was being left open was really Powell going down the middle of the lane and looking for that pass from Doncic. Van Gundy made a good comment in there that I think it was Van Gundy, maybe it was Mark Jackson. Anyway, the comment was that the Lakers probably should have had Anthony Davis playing that pick and roll, and instead they got Davis guarding somebody out in the corner, which is exactly what the Mavs would want you to do. Not that Davis showed any quickness or reaction speed with his defense tonight. I mean, he stood there and basically got guys make layups right underneath the basket 2 or 3 times without even contesting them. So obviously AD's got to get back into rhythm. It was good to see Ben shoot and make a lot of shots. It's just one of those games where you grit your teeth because you know that you could have won the game, that it was a winnable game. But in the end, what really kills is that the way you lose is by the Achilles heel of this team, which right now is the 3 guys that we got who are supposedly being full-time centers.
We got the lifestyle of a ladybug going on over here. So
it sounds like
you can hear it. You can hear in the back. She's very
Just give me the sign when you're ready.
I'm ready. No, I'm good to go, man. She's just talking to herself talking herself through the whole.
Well, it sounds a lot like a lot of the Lakers coaching staff during the course of the game today.
I don't understand why this is happening. What's going on? No, first off, you really got to tip your hat to Rick Carlisle and the coaching staff of the Mavs. They made a great halftime adjustment. They realized that we were going to trap Luka out on the perimeter and try to trap him against the baseline and use those things against him. And they had their guys cut faster. They just started cutting they didn't look for the open 3-point shot. They used the lure of the open 3-point shot in the corner as a way to get guys freed up to cut into the rim. And, a lot of different Lakers got burned on that play. So you can't point to one guy and say, like, oh, this guy was playing terrible defense tonight. In the second half, our defense let us down, I thought, more than anything else.
Yes, you can.
No, one guy lost us the game on defense tonight.
No, I didn't say that, but you could sure point to 1 or 2 guys as being the main deficient defenders during the game. Ben made 20 points and hit 5 threes, but
he's still a plus.
He's still an island defensively. He's still an adventure
terrible defender.
No, he's not good defensively. And Drummond gets, as you said,
and Drummond doesn't even know where to be.
Drummond wasn't, but he causes confusion for everybody else, and that's one of the issues with a buyout player. You don't have any, especially this season. There's no practice. He didn't go through camp. It's
also just the natural intuition and anticipation that you have to play good defense, and a sense of where you are on the court and where everybody else is. He's the kind of guy that if you were to stop and blindfold him at one point in time, he couldn't tell you where he was on the court. Was I at the elbow? Was I down below? He doesn't have any court awareness of where he is in relation to the game and what's going to happen.
I think that's true to a degree. The Lakers don't run. Listen, there's some teams that have elite offensive sets, and like the Mavs. The Mavs have some really cool plays they run that are designed to get specific guys shots in specific spots, and they run those plays very well. The Lakers have the opposite ability, but it's on the
our offense.
we do that on defense. And our defense isn't something anybody just walks in and picks up and starts playing excellent defense in. It's not. The NBA doesn't function like that, and it never has.
Do you think that after a period of time, Dre is going to be a good defender for the Lakers?
No, I think he would be average on the Lakers. I mean, we saw this last year. A lot of guys who were average defenders looked great on the Lakers, and then they go somewhere else, and they're not quite the same. They don't have the same impact on defense that they did for us. And that might even be true of a player, one of my favorite guys like Alex Caruso, right? Like, there's no guarantee that Caruso could go to another team and replicate the success on defense that he's had with the Lakers. And that's a credit to the coaching staff on our side. Mm-hmm. They came up with a great defensive game plan. And then the other thing I thought for the second half that was a little disappointing is we started just looking for easy shots at the perimeter. And Ben McLemore and Kuzma were the only two guys who hit threes with any kind of regularity tonight.
Right.
Nobody on the bench hit a three. Not one person. So the bench, for all their decent play.
We took care of the ball well. That's the one thing that we really did do good this
and we've been doing that well the last couple of games, to be honest. But it's still, that's a big part of it. But you can't take care of the ball to the point that you just kind of move it around on the perimeter a little bit, right, and don't try to get into the paint. Don't try to get into the defense. And we stopped trying to get into the defense in the second half. So, and credit the Mavs. The Mavs had a better second half than us. We didn't put enough of a cushion between us and them in the first half, and we didn't have the firepower at the end to put them away. AD is still working his way back into shape. It's obvious. Yeah. He's thinking a little more than he's reacting still, and that's probably going to be a couple, 3-4 more games.
Yep.
Same will happen a little bit for LeBron, but I expected a little less just because LeBron's LeBron. He's one of a kind. Right. He's one of a kind. It's not going to – he's going to need a game or two to get it back, and then I won't be worried about LeBron. Davis is
They played well defensively in the second half because holding us to 14 points in the fourth quarter was really a terrific effort. And you could see it in the sense that Dennis did not really – I think he made maybe one jumper in the second half. But almost everything he got was in the first half. And he wasn't able to penetrate and get to the rim at all. No. THT got there once when they got out a little too high on him. And that's the problem that I still have. I think that's why we saw Gasol in there trying to unclog the middle, because when you put Drummond down in there in the middle, and they're going to just sag off of Drummond. So you're going to have one guy in there no matter where Drummond stands. You're going to have one defender in there, and he's going to be the center. He's going to be Powell. He's going to be the biggest guy there because he's not going to go out there to the three-point line with Drummond. And that's the difficulty of trying to pair Anthony Davis with a old-school low-post center. It just doesn't work, especially when you got LeBron in the game. You want to surround him with shooters, and don't want anybody in the middle. You want just a wide open lane so he and AD can go downhill. Today we had the complete opposite because of excellent defense by the Mavs. They deserved this 2-game set, and they took it from us. And they have the tiebreaker, and they're in 6th place. So
and it's once again, the Lakers, unfortunately, in the second half, 108-93 is the loss against the Dallas Mavericks. Do want to give a big shout out to Renz. Thank you so much for joining us, and everybody else that watches and listens to us on our radio stations, and also as well that checks us out each and every week right here at the Lakers Fast Break. Want to give a big shout out to Dash Radio for also carrying the Lakers Fast Break, and everybody at the Hoopheads Podcast Network. Also here with us today is a good man indeed. He shows up now. Now that the Lakers lost, he did show up today. He's not here just for wins. It's a good man indeed. It's our basketball historian for Lakerholics.com. It is Sean Grice, a.k.a. the Magic Man. And Magic Man, good to have you here, which was under better circumstances, but a major collapse in the second half. The offense seemed to go anywhere but in the basket, and the defense seemed to allow and just not understand how to guard a pick and roll.
Both of those observations are correct, Gerald. And it's kind of funny. anyone who takes a statistical class, whether in high school or college, one of the very first lessons that is taught is that the number one rule of statistics is that there is always a regression to the mean. So as much as Laker fans want to see Macklemore just bomb it and make 8 or 9 threes a game, it's just not going to happen. It's a case of do or die with the three. Now I see in the NBA over and over again, and it's compounding problems. See, when Luka Doncic, an incredible player, turns the ball over, it is important to get points. I don't care how you get the points, but you need to get the points off those turnovers, even if they are making a run. And like I said, it's just this bombs away mentality now that teams have, and it's creating compounding problems because instead of trading 3 for 2, you're trading 7 for 3, or you're trading 12 for 4, basically with these transition opportunities. And Vogel just has I'm just seeing it. He's regardless of the 2 stars being out, he just has this fog that he gets into with when it comes to offense. I'm not sure what it is, Gerald. If you have a thought on that, I would love to hear it. But it just seems it's an utter fog whenever he gets down, and these mistakes compound themselves. He just can't dig himself out of that hole.
It's just to me, it's seemingly a fact where you're so reliant on one individual to create so much of your offense in LeBron, and you don't have that individual in the game. And in fact, now several games, you're just seemingly caught for a loss on exactly how to generate offense. And that's from, Laker Tom has pointed out, Jamie Sweet has pointed out, you've pointed out how hard it is for the Lakers to generate any offense consistently over the course. I mean, we saw such a great run in the second quarter there when they were doing very well, but it's not something that this team can sustain over the course of 4 quarters, especially with AD at the current status that he's in. He's still over 6 on 3-pointers. Just really struggling still. I mean, we're not going to be able to count on him yet. I mean, he's not going to be a major part. I don't see him rounding into form until at least when LeBron shows up, which would be great because then you have LeBron and AD then. That's fine. But until then, you've got a major problem because now with Laker Tom, as he's pointed out, Laker Tom has pointed out as far as in the loss column, they're now only 1 game up in the loss column ahead of the Mavericks. And now basically I think it's 1.5 games ahead right now. Actually, it is 1.5 games up on the Mavericks right now, 1 game ahead in the loss column. So now you got to deal with that and all the things that come with that. So you now are in a battle.
We're in a auspicious position. I still feel, Gerald, as far as the standings go. The Blazers have fallen off the map. They're 2-8 in their last 10. They're playing the Grizzlies 2 more times, and they're also playing a team, the Pacers, in between. So they've fallen off a cliff. I expect them to be in the play-in tournament. So really now it's between the Lakers and the Mavs for 5th place. And I happen to agree with Zach Lowe. Zach Lowe said this exact scenario would happen, that he expected that the Mavs would win both games, do the Lakers a huge favor here, because while the Mavs do have an easier schedule, the Lakers have some padding here, especially if LeBron's out for another week or so. There's some room. You play the Magic. They're not a very good team. You play a Wizards team. You also play a Kings team that's going to be without De'Aaron Fox due to health and safety. So you have to win at least 2 out of these 3 next games. If you win 2 out of the 3, you do yourself a favor because the Mavs, well, they do have an easier schedule. They have Mr. Steph Curry on the schedule coming up Tuesday, and that's a flip of the coin.
Well, I was continuing to watch you, and I had to keep on raising my head to make sure that I could keep up with you because you started to drift off camera there. It's like, exactly, Jamie, exactly. We're both going like, okay, is there anything you say? Yeah, exactly. So I mean, right now it is going to be something where we have to keep an eye on the schedule and see where that lands. But Laker Tom, I want to ask you this before we head on out, and that is this. The Lakers should try to do everything that they can to stay in the fifth spot and maybe magically get to the fourth. I don't know how they're going to do at this point, but thank you, Bree Marco, for the heart. They need to do everything they can to stay in that fifth slot because it's a very favorable matchup with Denver. Because Denver, they lost Will Barton for a foreseeable future now. That was next on the list. I will tell you what, it's got to be something where they got to go ahead and make every effort to get that fifth slot because I think it's in their best interest, at least as far as to get LeBron, AD back into shape for that second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, and there's some hope that they could even get into the fourth spot just considering that team's problems, But, the 4 and 5 are going to play, and that also gets you out of the 1 and 2 side of the bracket, so there's some real advantages for the Lakers to do that. And I think they will. I think what's most disconcerting to me right now is just that unlike last year when we came into the bubble and had those 8 games and really only needed to win like one of those games really to keep our standing and keep our seed. The Lakers seemed to suddenly and miraculously, as soon as the playoffs started, everybody seemed to be on one page, and that was pretty remarkable when you look at it because a lot of the teams that didn't get good starts and, go into the bubble would really have problems with it. So this year, what really bothers me is that instead of coming in and being able to play your regular lineup for 8 games like we were able to last year, even though they played poorly in the bubble, the one thing that they did that I think is important is that they played their regular lineups. They played their same rotations. Players got used to how many minutes they were going to play, when they were going to come in the game, who they were going to be playing with. Right now, with the integration of AD and the integration of LeBron down the road, and the problem that you have with respect to, trying to figure out where does Drummond fit in? Where does McLemore fit in, and then you throw in a few injuries like Kenny's injury today and so forth. And all of a sudden you don't have that same easy path that you had in the bubble. You're also traveling, you're flying around and so forth. There are a few fans in the stands now. So, I don't know, I think in the long run, we're going to finish. And if we win a championship, I think it'll be a bigger accomplishment than it was in the bubble.
I disagree.
I don't
disagree wholeheartedly.
You may agree when we don't make the finals. Or we don't make
the finals. Oh,
we don't make it.
If we don't make it to the finals, that won't be too surprising. It's the NBA. There's a lot of good teams. Nothing is predetermined.
There's a lot of things that can go. There's a lot of things that can go wrong for this team to get to the championship right now because of, number one, you've got your best 2 players injured, and how are they going to be playing? How long will it take them to get back to championship level? Can they get back to championship level in time?
I think they can.
That's a bigger challenge than anything we had last year.
I mean, the thing,
LeBron and AD were both healthy and rested.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the case this year.
But again,
I've made that argument
to,
myself many times, but
I would rather much see them start off playing the Nuggets, who are shorthanded right now, and targeting for that matchup, than going in playing as a 6th seed, playing against the Clippers. That would not go well, especially
we're going to have to play a lot
AD.
better than we played tonight to do that.
Yeah, exactly. But then again, we saw this in the bubble, that 8 games in the bubble where we thought it was doom and gloom, and see what happened. Yes, go ahead, Sean.
New players to integrate and 2 injured superstars to integrate.
Yeah, well, we had J.R. Smith and Deion Waiters.
Markieff Morris.
And Markieff Morris. But go ahead, Sean. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, Gerald, I'd like to point out.
Go ahead, Sean. I accidentally hit you on mute. I'm muting like crazy today.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No problem. No, I was going to say, you poo-pooed my Lakers Nuggets first round prediction, but I think you'd go along with me on that one. I still think it's going to happen. I still think they're on a collision course. I think Jokic is going to win the MVP, and I think it's going to piss LeBron off something fierce, and we're going to get out of that first round. I also said that I would love to see Luka play the Clippers one more time in the playoffs. And do you really want to play this team now if they're really hot going into the playoffs and you're the Clippers after what happened last year? So if the Mavs play the Clippers,
well, they're not exactly hot. Dallas is 5-5 in their last 10.
Yeah, that's true, but they present matchup problems for that team that I don't think they really want to see in the first round. I mean, for God's sakes, Luka Doncic doesn't really have to play defense. You have Dorian Finney-Smith and Maxi Kleber, who are going to pretty much guard Paul George and Kawhi Leonard the whole game. So again, I see a lot of problems that the Mavs present the Clippers, and I think they're on a collision course too.
Well, I can tell you right now, the hottest teams in the NBA, and I agree with Jamie's assessment, is the Clippers, who are 9-1 in their last 10, and then we go to the East and then we go to the East when you have Washington, who's won their last 7. New York, everybody in New York is going crazy right now because the Knicks have won their last 9 in a row. And then, watch out for the Bucks.
Right.
They watch out for the Bucks because they could actually sneak in and take over the Eastern Conference lead. So I will tell you what, it's been a great run indeed for tonight, but unfortunately the Lakers again collapsed in the second half, and it led again just awful. It's something I want to forget, and it's such an embarrassing thing to see on national television too. This is where we stand, and I thought the Lakers really play well during the course of when they play on ABC, but that didn't happen tonight. So. Not in that second half, indeed. So they fell 108-93. But before we head on out, guys, I need an update of what you're doing for Lakerholics.com. I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Magic Man. Hit you up, indeed. What you got planned outside of some nasty words for the Lakers coming up for the next few days? What you got planned for us at Lakerholics.com?
Yeah, Gerald, it was a disappointing 5-game stretch here. I was hoping, 3-2, but optimistically, realistically, I thought 2-3, 1-4 is disappointing. We've just got to move on to the next 12 and focus on that runway. There's not a whole lot of time left for AD to get rhythm for the playoffs to start. And maybe what Jamie says is right, and LeBron only needs a couple games, but I mean, usually the teams that end up, in the Final Four or end up winning the title are clicking right when the playoffs are starting. It's usually focused in, and it's great what the Knicks are doing. If they finish in 4th or 5th, they'll win a series, but they're not winning a title. Neither are the Wizards. The Clippers, yes, they're playing well, but I mean, to me,
don't say that to New York right now. Don't say that to New York. New York has already got their championship tickets printed and already purchased. Okay, they've already got they are all in on playoff mania in the Knicks land right now.
Gerald, the last time the New York
they've got
Knicks
Randall for MVP, the whole thing.
I think the last time the New York Knicks won a championship, Laker Tom was in college.
Laker Tom was not in college. Laker Tom was in diapers, probably. No, I know when they won. I was just kidding. Actually, I was in diapers the last time.
The Knicks winning a championship?
That was in the early 70s. So yes, I was.
Did you remember that?
Oh, I don't remember even
1973.
turning on a TV. Sorry.
I wasn't even alive when the Knicks won a championship.
Really, I was going to say because
Was it 71 or 73?
No, I don't know.
73.
Dave Busher and all
I was
those guys.
4.
I mean,
I
that
was
one
4,
hell of a
just to give you
team.
an idea. I was
about to be
Wow.
born in November of 1974. So
yeah. Knowing me, I was probably still in diapers because people said I've been in diapers ever since. But
I remember watching the Knicks. I remember watching the Knicks play, and they really played a kind of basketball that the closest thing that I've ever seen from it since those days were the Golden State Warriors of moving the ball around.
well, and Tom
There's no
Thibodeau
team
plays
moved the
100.
ball around the way that team did.
Well, and Tom Thibodeau plays Barrett and Randall 500 minutes in a game. So because I think they're 1 and 2 in the league in minutes played right now. I know at least Randall's number 1 and Barrett's not far behind. So this is Thibodeau. Yes,
Yep.
this is the short burst you get from Thibodeau. We're gonna see 2-3 years down the line if people are still in love with Thibodeau in New York because he always seems to burn his welcome out after a while because he burns his players out. But right now they are feasting, and you know what? I'm happy for the Knicks fans. I'm really happy for the Knicks fans because they are long-suffering Knicks fans, and they're finally getting a taste. They could sneak right now. They're in 4th. I don't think they have any plans or design to get into the top 3.
They're not going to go any higher than 4th.
Yeah, they're not going to get in the top 3 because Milwaukee is actually sneaking into that number 1 conversation. So people better watch out for Giannis Antetokounmpo, especially after a big win against Philadelphia today. But
There's only 1 and 2 losses separate those 3 teams in the East.
Yeah, so you know what? It's getting close there indeed. In fact, the entire Eastern Conference, you're watching it now. It's really exciting. From 1 to 10, it's really exciting there. Western Conference is a little more defined, and hopefully in the next week or two, it'll be defined for the Lakers where they're at. Hopefully staying at number 5 or at least getting maybe possibly to number 4. But guys, before we head on out, Jamie Sweet, I know you've got 5. I know you got 5 things coming up for us this week at Lakerholics.com. Please let us know some of those 5 things at Lakerholics.com.
Oh, certainly. One is that while again these losses are still more important for the Mavs. This Laker team that we're seeing right now is not the Laker team that. This is not our Laker team. It's just not. Even with AD back, it's still missing half of. It's only Robin. We don't have Batman, so it's not the real deal. And for the Mavs, who are desperate to avoid the play-in, who are desperate to avoid like a 1-game trip up, and to get a little extra rest for guys like Porzingis and Luka, they need these games. I agree that would much rather avoid the play-in, but honestly, the way this team is playing, I could think of worse things than having a couple extra tune-up games with LeBron and AD. I mean, the implications of the loss is, of course, not something one enjoys entertaining. But this team's going to need a little time to gel. Right now I'm considering going to the game on the 17th. I have a buddy who has tickets in the premier section for an exorbitant sum that I won't go into here on the broadcast. But I'm still considering pulling the trigger on it because, there's just something about this team that this team hasn't ever gotten. They're like Rip Van Winkle. You know what I mean? Like life has moved on, and they're like, but we still won a championship last year. And so there's something that I think is going to happen on that banner day that's going to allow the team to move forward a little bit and click a little better. I think tonight one of the things I'm definitely going to harp on is the return of Marc Gasol to the starting lineup. Or at least into crunch time major minute roles. I don't know. They may do like a McGee Howard kind of thing from here on out where Drummond's gets the nod as the starter and gets his 15, 20 minutes, and Mark gets his 15, 20 minutes when the game matters a little bit more, and we'll see how that works out here over the course of the next couple of weeks. And I think Laker Tom's right. I think that we will start to see a little bit more AD at the 5 to close games with 1-2 minutes to go, depending on the score. Other than that, I don't see AD playing minute 1 at center until the playoffs. And even then, I think they're going to try their darndest to not let it happen. When he got kicked in that other calf today, I think all of Laker Nation was like, oh, man, okay. This is just the worst thing that could happen in this game. We just need to get through these games with everybody healthy, at least all our main guys. Of course, we'll be going into the life cycle of the butterfly and the ladybug, and that's one of the things my daughter will help me write because she's got all the knowledge.
What Vogel and the staff did last year was interesting. It was usually Howard would play 15 to 20 minutes as center, McGee would play 15 to 20 minutes, and usually Anthony would play at most 6 to 8 minutes as center, depending on the full game, like Jamie was saying. So
he played 25% of the center last year during the regular season, 50% in the playoffs.
Yeah.
This year he played 7% during the regular season so far.
I'll bet it's only around. It doesn't go any much higher than 25% in the playoffs. That's just a guess, just based on just because of the season. Because
I think that they would like to do that.
I
think they would like to do that, and I think that that's a stupid thing to do.
Listen, that will be judged based off of the results. We can't prejudge.
You'll play more than 25% because the Lakers are going to be behind in series. They're going to be struggling. They're going to be struggling. They're not going to be able to win games.
If you get
Drummond at center, Harrell at center, or Gasol at center.
I disagree with Harrell at center because Harrell doesn't have to live in the paint.
There's a reason why Harrell didn't play. It's because he's played terribly in the last six or seven games.
Yeah, I mean, they might have just given him like a break. He might have just had a break and just to work out, see what it looks like with Gasol and Drummond. I mean, this is
go to NBA.com and choose the last 5 games and look at his stats.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you that he hasn't played well in the last 5 games. What I'm saying is that one of the things that Vogel does is, especially at this point in the season, is that he does it. If he wants to see something, he's not going to give everybody 8 minutes. He's going to be like, here's your 15 and here's your 15. And let's see what this really looks like over the course of a true game. And I think I don't think anything more than that happened tonight. And I'll bet if we watch Frank Vogel's post game and they ask, why didn't Montrezl Harrell play tonight? He'll be like, because I wanted to see what.
Well, of course he's going to say that. But the truth of the matter is he knows he can't play those 3 guys. Not in a single game. But
you
might alternate them in series and alternate them in matchups.
No, that's always talking about ever. I mean, talking about matchups. I don't think there's
the reality is they're going to have to play
major minutes.
He's going to have to play half the time at center, or this team will not win a championship.
I don't know about that solid number as being a predictor.
You're not going to win it. You're not going to win it with Drummond and Harrell and Gasol, either one of those 3 playing major minutes.
Not playing the defense that they did tonight. If you're going to iso ball and if you're going to go ahead and pick and roll, the Lakers are in trouble, especially if the way they saw them tonight. AD has to step up and play a lot more 5. I agree.
He's not playing any defense. He's not playing any defense now, too.
Well,
he'll be better.
He'll turn it on in the playoffs.
How long it's going to take?
Yeah. Before we head on out,
LeBron makes everybody better.
Yep.
Well, before we head on out,
that's the key.
Oh, go ahead, Jamie.
I agree. That's the key. One other thing about Vogel, though, last season, I think we've had 5 different starting lineups all year long. This year, we're
playoffs.
we're I think up about to 20 different starting lineups.
Right.
The rotation's a mess.
Thanks, COVID.
And thanks, COVID, and thanks, compressed schedule, and thanks, quick turnaround. So all of those things have doomed the Lakers to a subpar regular season. And the league is in trouble if they think that this is the Laker team that they are going to get in the playoffs. And frankly, I hope everybody keeps dumping on the Lakers and being,
Frank's not going to do anything about it until the playoffs.
No, I agree.
He's trying to find out now what he can do at the center position.
I agree.
They've
said for months they do.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Drummond come up with a sudden injury, and have to miss a game or 2.
No, it'll be just DNP coach's decision. It won't be anything. There's no mystery to how the Lakers do things. They don't. That's what I like about this Laker team. They don't hide guys or let guys whine out of the starting lineup. I'm not going to play you. You're not going to play tonight. I'll bet that Frank Vogel sat Trez down and had that conversation with him before the game, saying, "Just want you to know,
I'm sure he did.
Don't even think about taking off."
Any good coach would.
Right, and he is a good coach. He's a good coach, and he's an honest coach. That's one of the things that I respect about him. And he's got to do this. There's no time to practice. There's no time to. Yeah. This is how he has to make this work. So
and I agree with you that he can't. You can't send 3 guys out there for 5 minutes each, and no,
you're not going to get any sense. There's nothing you get. You learn nothing from that. You waste everybody's time. So anyway,
I've always felt that we played too many people in the rotation. Anyway, 11 people, too many guys just You just need to sit guys every 3 or 4 games. Sit somebody.
Yeah.
Keep your rotation down to 8, because once we get in the playoffs, I'm going to assume AD is going to end up playing, 36 minutes. He's going to play 18 minutes at center. That's going to leave 22 minutes at center. So who's going to get that 22 minutes at center is really the situation, because I don't think right now that if you wanted to flip it around and say AD was going to play 5 minutes, and we're going to have 43 minutes available for center, my God, that is an Achilles heel right there to give 43 minutes to those 3 guys, considering how they're playing.
Well, I'm beginning to think we should start. Oh, go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting, Joe, but what I was going to say, Tom, is that's why playing a team like the Denver Nuggets is so advantageous right now. Well, their front court is formidable, and it will be against us in the playoffs. They're going to have to. Mike Malone has a nightmare on his hands if he's playing LeBron James and he has to play Campazzo, any more than 30 minutes a game, and he's going to have to if Will Barton can't play or isn't 100%. And
Schroeder will feast on Campazzo. Schroeder will absolutely feast.
Schroeder will feast on anybody that they've got, because
That'll
they don't
be-
really have
that'll
a
be-
rim protector even with Joker.
Right,
No, that'll be
right.
murder. That'll be murder.
Yeah, and this is why, like Gerald was saying, it's so advantageous for the Lakers to remain in that 5th spot, because the matchup set up for the Lakers to experiment a little bit and get the job done at the same time.
They're going to spend so much energy putting someone on LeBron with Aaron Gordon or Michael Porter Jr., who is still not the greatest defensive player in the world. They're going to spend so much time and energy putting someone on LeBron. That leaves up a lot of more. That leaves us open to do a lot more things. Sure, you've got Jokic out there, and we have to pay a lot of attention to him. But the fact that they have to spend so much energy on guarding LeBron is going to be something very key for the Lakers. But
they're not a great defensive team. Is really
the big and that's going to be a problem for them.
They've lost a lot of their offense.
Yeah, and that's going to be a bigger problem for them than it is for us. Yeah. But again, the Lakers unfortunately didn't have enough offense in that second half, and they fell 108-93 in just a major collapse in this whole second half, not just the last 5 minutes of fourth quarter. This was something that was carrying out over the course of 2 quarters. But before we end out, Laker Tom, I know come on, I know you're doing a lot of great things right now for Lakerholics.com. What you got planned coming up for us at Lakerholics.com?
Every so often you run into a topic and you start a story, and for some reason you just constantly can't seem to narrow it down and really pick
back
a thread
to the
for it.
catfishing thing again?
No, I'm basically talking about Anthony Davis and the Lakers center situation, because I've written this article and it's gotten so long now, I'm trying to shorten it and trying to focus it, and I've got like 4 different titles already that I've moved it over, and I've got 4 or 5 different opening paragraphs. I've got 4 or 5 conclusions, and I've got 2 or 3 themes.
Can you just write a book already?
It's funny because it really reflects what I think is listen, Frank Vogel, I was on him all year long about his refusal to make changes in his starting lineup or even his rotations at times. He was incredibly protective of JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard the entire year. And then he surprises the hell out of me in the playoffs by making exactly every single move that I thought he should make, and how we've switched all things around. So part of me is looking at the dilemma that the Lakers are facing and feeling pretty confident, because I like what Frank did before, and I think, he sees what we're seeing. He understands what we're all complaining about. He understands that, man, there's some big warts on Andre Drummond. He can't finish. He's not a lob guy. You don't throw the ball up there hoping he's going to grab it with one mitt and stuff it down through the hoop. He's not the guy you're going to go to in the clutch. And he doesn't have great defensive wherewithal. He doesn't understand where he is on the court and where he fits in the defense, and he's not anticipating things. Yet he's 28 and he is talented as hell. And And Anthony wants to play power forward. That's the simple truth about it. You know, he doesn't really want to play power forward. What he really wants to play is modern center. But unfortunately, we're not structured to have a team offensively where he can be a modern center. Instead, we've got these dinosaurs sitting there taking up all the room in the lane that force him to be not the kind of center that he'd like to be, but a power forward, just because there's some big center sitting in the middle of the mess, using up all of that space, causing all of that congestion. So it's, you know, so anyway, I'm trying to figure out where to go with this whole thing. And part of it is, I think that number one, his best position is center. There's no doubt about it. There's no question about it. There's no debate about it. Number two, the Lakers are better when he's at center than any other position that he plays. And if you can't find, maybe we're going about it wrong is one approach that I've been playing with. Maybe we're going about it by trying to say, well, he's going to be a power forward, so let's put a center in there. Maybe we ought to go out and instead get a power forward who can guard any of these big centers and let him play center, because we can take away the things he doesn't like about center. You don't want to guard Embiid? No problem. We got this guy to guard Embiid. Or we'll bring a guy off the bench to guard Embiid. But you're going to be our center, and you're going to play center, and that's the best for you. That's how you're going to become the fourth greatest center in the Lakers. You're going to join Kareem and Shaquille and you know, and Wilt and you know, be a legendary Lakers center. I mean, that's what we're known for. That's what he should be wanting. I mean, could you imagine Kareem saying, you know, I want to play power forward, or Shaq saying that? You know, I mean, it's a whole different situation today, you know, and he's a different kind of center than any other center we've had. He is the modern prototypical center, and we should take advantage of him. We should have him play that center position, surround him with the people so that he'll be able to surround him with shooters, get a power forward who is a real monster, you know, somebody like Draymond Green who can impact the game and take that load off. He can guard the tough guys and so forth. So there's pathways for us, but center is really our problem right now. Who's going to play center? Is Anthony Davis going to play center enough for us to win?
Well, check out his articles on that and so much more if he actually comes to fruition. If it actually comes to fruition, because, you know, he's still starting those startings. But you know what? I think you should go ahead and make that book. And I got a title for you all planned out. It's called "How Many Times Can I Say Laker Tom Write Anthony? How many times can Laker Tom write Anthony Davis play center?" in a book?
80,000.
Yes, because how many times can Laker Tom say Anthony Davis needs to play center during a podcast? He certainly said it a lot. So
48 by my count.
And I'm not disagreeing with him every time he says it.
Anthony Davis needs to play center. Anthony Davis needs to play center.
Yep.
Yeah, even 50.
Right?
It's like an episode of The Simpsons where you have Bart Simpson needs to go ahead and say that, write that 100 times on a chalkboard. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
The reverse on the screen, you know. Sorry.
Yes.
We got you a couple of buckets in the last 14 seconds to get you up to 50. So
Markeith Morris, get ready. You're going to be playing a lot more.
Bad game from Keith too.
We Cedric Sabalos do. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's for Laker Tom. It's Anthony Davis and the Island of Misfit Toys at center.
It is the island of missing centers, definitely.
All right. Well, once again, the Lakers did fall to the Dallas Mavericks in the second game of back-to-back, 108-93. We will be back, hopefully with better tidings for everyone out there. We will be back on Monday. Monday. That's right. Monday, the Lakers have an early game in Orlando as they continue their road trip, hopefully with better tidings, because Orlando wants to lose, at least seemingly, because they're in the middle of that tank. So they want to go ahead and tank to get a better draft choice. So that will hopefully mean that the Lakers will go ahead and have better returns. But we will be here after the game on Monday night. So please check us out, Lakers Fast Break. Once again, if you have any questions for us, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com, at Lakers Fast Break on Twitter, at Laker Tom on Twitter. Well, we're not Vivian Flores on Twitter, that's for sure. We're not going to go down that road because that was a lot of catfishing, and we don't want any part of that. In fact, I see all the players today. They're all here. I can see all of his. I don't think anyone's being photoshopped this time around. So I think we're all good. I think we're all legit here at the Lakers Fast Break. So if you, we do appreciate again that you're part of this show, part of this broadcast. And please, if you have any questions for us, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. Well, once again, it is the Lakers coming up a little bit short. Okay, really, second half was really bad.
A lot short.
Yeah, a lot short.
We scored three more points. We scored three more
I-
points in the second half than we did in the second quarter. So
Yeah, I can't mince words.
Very,
It was
very
really
short.
bad. 108 to 93, a major collapse in the second half. Here's hoping that the Lakers will go to Orlando and not stay too long in Disney World, and hopefully we'll have a better week, and hopefully you will too, as Lakers fans, because we're coming right back at you on Monday night after the Orlando game, right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.